Mother's Day, J.B. Priestley. An overview of the play and also learn about its playwright. An overview. Mother's Days, where mothers are taken for granted and not treated with respect the way they should be. The play opens with Mrs. Pearson talking to her neighbor, Mrs. Fitzgerald, a fortune teller. Mrs. Fitzgerald tells Mrs. Pearson that her predictions indicate that it is in her hands whether she wishes to improve her fortune or ruin it. She tells Mrs. Pearson to put her foot down and assert herself as the mistress of the house. Mrs. Pearson timidly and lamely attempts to defend her family, but is virtually compelled by Mrs. Fitzgerald into taking things in her hand to bring about a change. She insists that Mrs. Pearson's family members be taught a lesson, and she'll help her to do it. With the aid of magical spells, they swap their personalities. Mrs. Fitzgerald, as the new Mrs. Pearson, sits drinking and smoking, while Mrs. Pearson, as the new Mrs. Fitzgerald, leaves. Mrs. Pearson's spoiled return home to the new mother and is shocked to see her mother smoking. Soon her brother, Cyril, and her father come in and are equally taken aback by the transformation in the mild-natured Mrs. Pearson. Mrs. Pearson refuses to do their bidding, as she'd done for years. Instead, she openly smokes and drinks, which leaves her family bewildered and dumbfounded. Mrs. Fitzgerald returns to the scene, asks Mrs. Pearson how things are progressing. The latter insists that she can't trouble her family anymore and should stop the entire charade. What follows is an interesting turn of events, and the play concludes on a satisfying note with Mrs. Pearson regaining her dignity. About the playwright. J.B. Priestley was born on 13th September 1894 in West Yorkshire, England. He started his schooling at Bellevue Grammar School, but left it when he was 16 to work as a junior clerk at Helm & Co. Priestley's love for writing began while working at Helm & Co. He would write articles at night after work, which were published in the local and London newspapers. Priestley served in the army during the First World War, but was severely wounded in June 1916. He spent many months in military hospitals and convalescent establishments thereafter. It was after leaving the army that Priestley completed his university education at Trinity Hall, Cambridge. Interestingly, during the Second World War, Priestley played a very different role, which was that of a regular broadcaster on the BBC. Priestley, the writer, had his first taste of success with his novel, The Good Companions, in 1929. Priestley wrote in different genres, travelogues, essays, novels, and plays. Apart from this, he was a broadcaster, scriptwriter, and a social commentator. The University of Bradford awarded Priestley the title of Honorary Doctor of Letters in 1970. He was also awarded. Summary. In this module, you got an overview of the play Mother's Day and also learnt about its playwright, J.B. Priestley.